At this point, I wouldn't mind Shadow lending me a hand.
Where's that fourth Chaos Emerald?
Shadow the Hedgehog is in Sonic Frontiers. And I know what you might be saying. You're probably saying, bro, stop lying, you clickbaiting piece of... But, just listen for a bit. Stick around till the end so I can make my point clear. Let me talk to y'all. Yes, I know that he is not physically in the game. Unless of course you mod or something like that. But the point I wanted to make and bring up for this video is that for about a decade now, Sonic games haven't really felt connected to each other unless they take aspects for cheap nostalgia. But other than that, they all felt like standalone adventures that aren't really tied together. And one thing that I really enjoy about Sonic Frontiers is that it isn't afraid to mention or bring up previous story events that happened. So it makes all the games feel connected, rather than just once-off adventures that'll never be brought up again. A notable reference that was made was Tails' reference to Dark Gaia, which of course is the main baddie of Sonic Unleashed. So I was pleasantly surprised when I started catching on to these references, and even more happy when I heard and saw the references to Shadow the Hedgehog. Now why am I singling out the Shadow references specifically? Well, one, it's because I'm a huge fan of his. He's my favorite character, and anytime I get to talk about him is just a grand time. And two, the little nods to Shadow give me a bit of a theory or idea on what the future plans might be for him down the line. So I just want to share my overall thoughts and get other people's views on the matter. So leave a comment below, like the video, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Let's start off straight away with the biggest Shadow reference in the game, which is Sonic straight up mentioning him completely randomly and out of nowhere. I will be discussing some spoilers by the way guys, so if you don't want to be spoiled, then go play the game and come back here later. As well, if you want to go check out my playthrough on the channel, you're welcome to. But when you get to the third island, right? And this game pushes Sonic to his absolute limits by the way. He's tired and he's burnt out and stuff. So I'm busy running, exploring, doing my thing, finding the Chaos Emeralds and whatnot, when all of a sudden Sonic just stops and says,
At this point, I wouldn't mind Shadow lending me a hand.
Naturally, that sent me. That confirms that he is technically here. He's just not here. He's out and doing his own thing most likely. Usually if a character isn't in the game, they just most likely don't mention them at all. But for Sonic to just randomly do that tells me that he was originally supposed to be in the game and it was scrapped, or there are plans for him later down the line like I originally theorized in this video here. Now, could that mean he takes center stage in the next game? A new DLC with him being playable perhaps? I mean, imagine how fun it'll be playing as Shadow with all his different powers and abilities in an environment like this. Only time will tell, but it's very odd placement to name drop him at a place like that. Another big indirect reference to Shadow is the unlockable voice recorded messages from Dr. Eggman that you can unlock through the fishing minigame. The one that I'm referring to here is the one that says,
I never really knew my cousin Maria. Everyone spoke of her like she was very special. All that love for someone who was gone when I was right there. But I have to wonder, back then, was she anything like Sage is now?
So Eggman seems to resent Maria because of how everyone speaks so highly of her, and I guess he feels jealous and lonely as well. He ponders if there is a comparison to be made with how Sage is to how Maria was. Maria of course was Shadow's friend and one of the main driving forces of him being what he is today. You know, like him being created was going to hopefully find a cure for her terminal illness, and then him being traumatized by watching her die, which made him resent humanity, and also the promise that he made to her to protect everyone. I'd say that she's the most important character in the franchise when it comes to Shadow and his development. So if they're trying to draw comparisons between her and Sage, I think if Shadow meets her one day, then it would be a very interesting dynamic, and it seemed to be something that they're setting up for the future. Sage could also be seen as Eggman's version of Shadow in a sense. You know, like how Shadow was created by Professor Gerald, Eggman's grandfather, and he was seen as family, just as Sage is pretty much seen as a daughter to Eggman. He even boasts about creating life in another one of the unlockable voice messages, although she still seems more artificial than Shadow is, so there's a bit of a contrast there. But if Sage does interact with Shadow, I think it could be very compelling. Another shocking reference to Shadow in this game is the mention of the Black Arms, which is the alien race that Shadow was created from. I never thought that they'd actually bring them up again, but they did. I just thought that they probably would pretend like none of that ever happened, like most of the events of Shadow the Hedgehog, but it's nice to see that they got a mention. There's quite a few callbacks to Radical Highway in the cyberspace levels as well, and if you didn't know, Radical Highway is the first playable stage ever that Shadow makes his first ever playable appearance in Sonic Adventure 2. And speaking of Sonic Adventure 2, we will be getting Sonic Soap Shoes as a customizable cosmetic. So there's a lot of SA2 callbacks, and maybe I'm just reaching here, but maybe we will get an episode Shadow DLC for Frontiers, just like Forces did, where maybe we will get a new playable island or something as Shadow. I would really like that, and Shadow has all these different powers and abilities. I'd really love to see them incorporated into this type of playstyle. If you want to know my pre-release thoughts about Shadow in Sonic Frontiers though, click the playlist on screen. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe. Peace out.